In a world where security matters more than ever, Lionheart Security Services stands head and shoulders above the competition. Whether it's airport security, high-rise residential and office security, event security, warehouse security, or even personal security, call the best of the best. Lionheart Security Services. We provide armed and unarmed officers. Our armed officers are held to the strictest standards of 90% accuracy, 20% higher than Arizona standards. When it comes to securing you, your goods, and services. Call Lionheart Security Services, 480-485-2304, or find them on the web at lionheartsecurityservices.com.
Medicare, for someone new to it, can be a very complex thing to understand. Honestly, unless you are a professional like me, I don't see why anyone would bother trying to learn all the ins and outs of it. Hi, I'm Peter Martin, Senior Planning Specialist. And I'll tell you that after many years of helping clients with Medicare, I would approximate that 80% of seniors are in a Medicare plan that is not ideally suited for them. That's a high number, 80%, but it makes sense. Let's face it, the government does not exactly make Medicare easy to understand. Even once you understand it, there are subtle changes from year to year. Most people have better things to do than to keep up with these changes. Considering that my services as a Medicare broker are free to you, I recommend that you outsource the Medicare plan research task and free yourself up to pursue the more enjoyable aspects of life. It's my job to make sure that my clients minimize their medication costs and retain their favorite doctors and specialists within their networks. I will keep up with the annual changes that take place in your plan and will definitely alert you to anything noteworthy. I'll be a resource for you throughout the year as well. You may want to know the patient ratings of specialists to whom you are referred. You may need help with claims or prescription issues. I will be there when those things come up.
Welcome to Backstreet Gossip, news talk, current events, and political commentary. And now here's your host, Ronald Lutters.
I am Ronald Lutters, and look at what happened to the studio.
Well, the sun's been going down earlier.
I know, it's dark out
Phoenix,
now.
yeah.
It looks like we're in a dank, dark jungle.
Kind of
Wow.
spooky, isn't it?
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We're so excited that you're here tonight. We've decided that the first part of this show, we're going to do something really, really unusual because Halloween is coming up. And actually, it's by our next show, it would be over. So we decided to do it this week.
Yeah, it's on Sunday.
So, yes, it would be a Sunday. And it's trick or treat. But we've got some really interesting things here. We've got a special guest, Charles Glasgow. And he has written a number of books. We're going to get into that in just a moment. But I'd like to thank you all for watching and encourage you all to go to our sponsors because they're the ones that help us put this show on. And we have been here for, gosh, a long time, Ray. And we are breaking news constantly.
We are.
It is amazing how many of the things that we talk about days or a week later, you'll see Tucker Carlson or the big boys. I'm not included.
And you know what? They never once have mentioned our show.
And you know, we even know.
It's shocking.
Probably President Trump is watching. And
well, we know they watch. They just don't mention us.
Yeah, they don't mention us. But actually, we've had more on some of our shows. We've had more you're not going to believe this. We've had more people watch this little show than what CNN has watched on a few instances. We've outnumbered them across the fruited plain and across the world. So those of you that are watching on YouTube, give us a like there. We really want that subscription numbers going up, up, up. Now, it's really interesting, Ray. Tonight you're the only native here, I believe.
Yes.
And the room is full of people from Illinois, including Charles.
Yes.
Do you call yourself Illinoisans?
Illinesians.
Illonesians.
Well, where he's from, they're Illonesians.
How about where you're from?
Illinoisans.
Illinoisans. Okay.
Illinoisans. So, at any rate, this guy is really interesting. A really good friend of ours from went to Southern Illinois University has put Charles in touch with us, and especially because of the Halloween show. I'm not going to mention her name because she'd just get a puff up and she's laughing over there. I don't want to puff her up anymore because she's a Saluki. And if you don't know what a Saluki is,
She's over in the bushes right now. So.
a Saluki is an Egyptian dog. Now, don't ask me how they got to Illinois, and especially Southern Illinois. That's the school she went to. And I went to Eastern Illinois, and we were rivals. Southern and Eastern were athletic rivals. So, at any rate, we're going to go ahead here. But Charles has done something that's rather unusual, and I'm going to let you talk about it. I can say it, but you know what it is, and I know you've talked to me, and you have a much better way of saying it than I do. So, Charles, tell us how you got into this authorship.
Well, the funny thing is, I was sitting in the lobby at the high school in Quincy, Illinois, and I had a Playboy magazine, reading it.
Right, you weren't looking at the pictures. I know.
I said reading, yeah.
I know.
My English
I take your word for it.
My English teacher walked by me and said, "Mr. Glasgow, what's that in your hands?" I said, "Oh, it's a Playboy." So he looked at it and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm reading an article by this new author, Stephen King. And it's a short story. It was his first one released in Playboy." And he looked at it and said, "Well, I guess so you are." And he continue on, but put that inside of a folder at least. And I said, "Okay." So he started assigning me short stories to write because he saw I had kind of a corrupt, evil mind, and he let me continue on. And as the years went by, I wrote little short stories in college, whatever. And one day, I was living in North Dakota, 1986, I guess it was, and I was bored. It was 3 a.m, and I started writing this story to try to put me to sleep. And turned into 45 pages after a little bit.
Wow.
I carried it with me for years, quite a few years, and it was not until about 2 years ago when I decided my ex back then was writing a book also, and she was an English lit major, so she said, "You need to get back in that story," because she read it and she said it's quite good. So I started writing, and a friend of mine up in Iowa, who's a writer also, Jason, he encouraged me and helped me out with things about self-publishing and things like that. But I got into writing the book. I finished it, and it was about 360 pages, I think. And it came from my mind. You know, they say you should write about the things that you know or that you love. And it was about a house on my block, down on 4th and Elm. And this book came from it, House of Painted Souls. And it's not just one house like you see on the cover. It's 2 houses. Because later, the book was, or the house was duplicated by a doctor who bought it. He liked it so much he wanted a second house just like it. And it became the Quincy Memorial Asylum.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That sounds spooky to start with.
Now, why are asylums memorial?
It's memorial because it's city, the city.
Oh, okay.
And this was right on Elm Street.
Oh, man. And that has another connotation.
Yeah, there's something about Elm Street.
Kind of spooky.
You know?
Well, all the trees were dying on our block after so many years, Dutch elm disease. But anyway, so the story went on, and the first book is about just that first house and the things that went on inside, and it's a horror story. So don't be shocked. Yes, they're ghouls. They eat people. They kill people. Sometimes there's light sex involved, but not too much. There's sacrifices. Yeah, there's a guy named.
So it's a feel-good story, basically.
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And you'll have tingles going up and down your back. So, but it's about at the end of the story is about the battle of good and evil, and how the army, who comes across the states of Kansas and Missouri, recruiting people from their graves, and it brings them to I don't want to say shores, but let's just say the waterline of the river, the Mississippi. And a battle ensues there. And on the other side are all the good people from the churches who are assembled on the bluffs right above the river. And
The Palisades.
yeah, but there's a little boy in the book who dies at the very beginning. And Stevie comes back in the end to save the town as a ghost.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, when did you write this book?
This was over 2 years ago, and I self-published and released it on Amazon. So you can find it on Amazon.com under Charlie Glasgow. And only my mother calls me Charles when she's mad. So anyway,
Okay, so give us the name once again.
and the House of Painted Souls is the name of it. He just had it up here before, but yeah, Charlie Glasgow, the House of Painted Souls on Amazon.
There it's up now.
And you can get it as an ebook. You can so if you got some lady just bought one down in Queen Creek, and she said, I don't like Audible books or whatever, but I want something I can read on a tablet. I said, okay, it's there. And the paperback like this is there. And I'm editing it right now to get it ready for audible.com.
So I'm curious. It says a 13 Steps novel.
Yes,
Is this
yes.
your publishing company?
No, there are 13 steps in the house, and they're up in if you look at the very top of the house, there's a mansard roof that goes up at a sharp angle like that, and the windows are built in them. And then you have it's called a cupola, or sometimes a widow's walk. They're two different things.
Mm-hmm.
But the cupola was the little house with a roof on it, so you'd have windows you could look out any time of the year. The widow's walk was a piece of architecture up there that was fenced usually. You could see like the iron
Right.
gates up there kind of. That's a widow's walk, and that's where they would go out, and the captain's wife would look out to see if her husband was coming in for the river. So
Right.
anyway, so there were 13 steps leading up to that cupola, spiral staircase.
It would be 13 steps, too, wouldn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
has to be.
Yeah, because 12 Step was already taken.
Yeah. Well, maybe that led to the 13th. I don't know.
12-step program.
But anyway, it did the 13 steps. Each riser had a painting depicted on the riser, and it was a scene of prophecy of what would happen to each family who moved into this house over the years. Some of these houses, like the one I grew up in, it's probably 140 years old right now. So these
So
were all built
it's
back
actually
like Civil
based.
War.
It's based on an actual house
Yes.
that you said was duplicated.
Yes,
and became an asylum. Wow.
Yeah, and that was in the second book, and that was the House of Slumbers, which is the continuation of it. And there will be a third one coming out that leads from 1955. They moved the asylum, and I didn't know this, but the town's asylum was moved across town to the south side on State Street, and that's where people were taken, back in tuberculosis days and things like that.
Sure.
But sometimes there was shock therapy or and water therapy, what we would call waterboarding tonight. Yeah. So,
Let me ask you this. Am I correct in assuming now that you've taken actual and real scenarios here, homes and situations, and you have taken them past the point of reality
Yes.
to the part, well, I'm hoping they're fiction.
Well, the houses exist. Many of the characters do not. But I sometimes borrow from my own life or somebody else's life to bring a character to life. And for me, it's a matter of I sit down in front of the Mac computer and I just start typing. I see a movie in front of me. The drive-in theater is always a good spot to hang out, right? And I start typing what I see, and the story comes to life.
Wow.
Now, do you, I guess in my day, and I'm older than you, even though we're both from Illinois.
No.
Although you got gray hair and I don't. I don't have hair. Mr. O'Connor is dressed for the night. He's all in black, so he's getting ready to celebrate. Yeah, he sounds like a ghoul over there. Boo. So, at any rate, these particular stories, and I know along a lot of the river towns and these old towns in Illinois, I grew up in the suburbs, so they were really new. They didn't have a lot of history to them yet because they were farms and they all become, big parking lots for modern builders. But these old towns, like in Charleston where I went to school, there's a number of old houses. And we have some guests from there too. They made pizza parlors out of some of them. And we had a phenomenal time in some of these old houses. And where I was, they had the Lincoln Log Cabin where Abraham Lincoln's mother lived outside of Charleston.
Or not, no.
And his dad was buried there. So we had a little bit of these haunting stories as well about the Lincoln scenarios. But I'm really interested in how, of all the different literary genres that you could have gotten into, why did you get into the, what do they call it? Not abnormal, subnormal. There's
Paranormal?
Paranormal.
I got into it when I was a little kid because my grandmother spurned me on. When I was 5, I heard a noise coming out of the eaves up on the second floor, and I asked her, "What is that?" And she goes, "Well, that's a banshee." I said, "There's no such thing." She goes, "Oh, yeah, there is. You've got to fight fire with a banshee to get rid of it. Don't let it in your house because it could kill you." I said, "You're kidding me." Now she goes, and she kept a dictionary in the front office with a candy dish right next to it. She said, "Go look it up." That was always the big thing, right? And I went and looked it up, and banshee was in the dictionary. Oh my God! So I'm looking over the fireplace. Oh no, that kind of that taunted me. Things like that spurred me on.
Now I'm curious because we have Halloween coming up,
Yes.
and it's a big holiday, especially for the kids,
Yes. Oh,
and
yeah.
they dress up in ghouls and vampires. They really don't know the extent of what
And some of them,
that means.
some of them are dressed up like Joe Biden.
Joe Biden,
That's
yeah, I
pretty
think we
scary.
have. There's a lot of Anthony Fauci.
And that's pretty scary too.
Costumes, yeah. So anyway, there is a spiritual realm that many people believe, and it's different for some people. But do you ever get, knowing that you get so deep into this, do you ever experience or even get scared sometimes because you're right there on the cusp of this spiritual realm?
I have a friend, like I said, who writes up in Iowa, and he does. Sometimes he has to stay and just back off of a book for a while because it's too much. And it's like you have to throw yourself
These
in.
awake nights.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing for him. Me, no, I love this stuff. We went through this spook house, and she jumped at every second. I'm like, I was right in the front line, walking in front of her, trying to scare her.
Yeah, but she's a Saluki. You'd expect that.
Yeah, that's true. But I've experienced it for myself. Some people never ever experience the effects of the paranormal or UFOs over there. It's one of those things. Once you've experienced it for real yourself, you'll never look at the same way.
But you don't have any fear or any apprehension or anything like that.
No, not about the books, and even walking through it. I love walking through scary old houses, and I love architecture too, old architecture especially.
Well, these are beautiful old homes.
And those were knocked down. Both of those houses were knocked down in 1969. The wrecking ball came in.
Oh, what a shame.
And I will write a book about the end, the third book. But I was there when the wrecking ball came in, and I'm like, thank God.
Oh, they're beautiful.
Those were
homes.
the scariest houses
Now,
in the city.
were these along the river? Because
Yes.
I know when you talk about the Capello at the top, a lot of people, and I do know that they used to watch the riverboats
Oh yeah,
to see
I
when
watched them.
hubby was coming home, and
Yeah.
if he was a captain or something, here comes the boat.
It was Mark Twain, who was a Samuel Clemens, who grew up
Right.
in Hannibal,
Great
Missouri.
author, yes.
Yeah, his real name is Samuel Clemens, but Mark Twain was taken from his days working on riverboats, and his brother worked on riverboats and perished on one. So these houses, like in Hannibal, Missouri, and in Quincy, Illinois, these towns are chock full of these old mansions. They're incredible. And they're as big as anything you'll see in the state. Many people come down during tourist season for the fall colors of the trees. They don't look so nice now, but but they do come down to see the trees.
Do we have another background? Those trees are beginning to spook me out. Let's see what else we got here. Let's take a walk here. Let's walk.
So I'm curious about when you write the books and everything, is it mainly based on one paranormal type character, or do you find that most of these older homes are occupied, I'll put that in quotes, are occupied by more than one, or maybe a group of?
Nowadays, most of the houses are divided up, and there might be 5 families in some of these old mansions, and a lot of them are falling down.
Give us an idea. What is the size, like square footage wise, of what you would consider a mansion?
The house I grew up in was small, and it was 12 rooms and a basement.
12 rooms.
And a basement. So
Wow.
I slept on the 4th
That's a
floor.
good side. Yeah.
And most of the houses, there were 4 houses built all in a row by Mr. Mertz back in the 1800s. These houses were delightful. And
That was Fred Mertz, wasn't it?
not Fred Nuth, a different one. But that house across the street, I don't know who built that one, but a lot of them have stained glass in them. Beautiful porches. We had a round porch that went around the 2nd floor all the way around that was covered. And so, in a tin roof. Have you ever been in a house with a tin roof?
Yeah, sure.
How loud they are during thunderstorms? I would go to the public library, I'd bring books back home, and during storms, I would love to hear,
There's
because,
Elizabeth Taylor,
Yeah.
the cat on the hot tin roof.
yeah. But yeah, they don't make houses like that anymore, do they?
Well, it's interesting in that my aunt lived in Lafayette, Indiana, home of the Boilermakers, Purdue University type, and they had the Wabash River ran through there, and they had a house very similar to this. And then when I was a kid, it had a great big old porch and a big swing. That was my favorite place. My cousin and I, we had mostly girl cousins, so we were the only 2 boys. We used to play on that thing, But they had the little cupola up there, and you could look out and
Yeah.
see down the river, and it was really because they used to have river boat races along the river.
Yes.
Jet boats.
My dad used to work on those.
Really, and that was always fun to go up there and look down in the river and see those jet boats.
It's very different growing up in the desert, obviously, because we don't have that river experience. And
No.
most of the homes out here were, brick, ranch style, low ceilings. You didn't have that grandeur that you would have from where you are, but we did have our spooky little places. I grew up near the Arcadia area, and we had Merriweather's Mansion. And it was kind of looked a little bit like this.
The Arcadia Theater.
Yeah.
I've been there, yeah.
So, for us to kind of get a visual on that, it's a little bit more difficult because we're desert. But that, reading Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn and all that, you kind of get an idea of what it would be like, but very different than growing up here.
Yeah, Tom Sawyer's house, they didn't even mention it really. Becky Thatcher's house gets asked more about on the tours in Hannibal than anywhere, I think. But these houses are complete mansions. I mean, you're talking 24 rooms or more, maybe 2 different kinds of wood on each level, and multiple bathrooms on each floor. Think of the plumbing that they had to do from back in the 1800s.
Got a question for you. If I wanted to purchase one of these books, where would I go to purchase it?
Well, Amazon.com is a great place to go to. Just look up my name and any one of these titles.
And that's not Charles. It's
No,
Charlie.
it's Charlie. Charles is my formal name.
See, he's got his formal name on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, you just think of
Sorry.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Charlie
Brown.
Charlie in the House of Slumbers.
Yes.
So you have some other books here too. Tell us about those.
These are, in fact, this one is about this is Mr. Mayflower, and it's about a moving van from 1953 that roams the streets of Hannibal, Missouri. And Mr. Mayflower, we don't know if he's alive or if he's dead. Is he a ghoul, is he a ghost, or a human? But you can see the eyes if you look really close in the driver's side. Do you see the red eyes? You have to look close.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. Once you see that, I'd like to put things like that in my books or my covers.
Wow. Can you see him, Ray?
Of course.
Yeah. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. But this man
My
drives.
eyes are drawn to that, right?
A friend of mine actually told me there's a guy down in South Carolina, I think it was. As a kid, he would come to town, he'd park at the truck stop or something, open the back of that thing up, and it was like a semi-size, but it was a moving van, and he would keep all kinds of goods in there. You could walk in, get bolts and nuts, or maybe place mats, or just things for the house.
Sounds like Mr. O'Connor's truck.
But the deeper you go in this, the deeper you go in that back of that truck, though, the darker it gets. The air is harder to breathe, and the objects become strange. There's a alien's head inside of one jar.
Ooh.
If you pick it up, it might speak to you. different.
Well, that sounds like
Universe.
So
something.
what was the inspiration for Mr. Mayflower? It was
Well,
obviously
my
the
friend-
Mayflower Moving Company.
This guy could do, when he came to town, he was a big dude, kind of looked like Elvis a little bit, but very heavy and older. And he'd do tricks, card tricks, or flip the coins across his knuckles. And he'd entertain people, and if you wanted to go in the van, he'd sell you something. He knew everything that was in there. But the difference in the book is this guy has a price. It comes later in life. He'll come and ask you for a favor.
Uh-oh.
So, but these three boys in this story in Hannibal, Missouri, grow up together, and they try to track his whereabouts throughout the city. Houses are disappearing. The people are disappearing. No one knows what's happening. And this truck is it's a mystery. Years later, they come back together in the 1990s. The story started in the early 70s. So they came back together in the 90s, and the main character moved back into Hannibal, and they were building an Airbnb in one of these old mansions, and they started tracking this guy down, and he started coming around for the favors to be returned.
Wow.
And it's pretty spooky. It ends up in a graveyard over in
Do
Marble.
we have spooky
Marblehead.
music when you tell that?
Yeah,
Mr. O'Connor,
there
we have
should
any
be some.
spooky music? I mean, this is kind of a spooky story, so I think, Ray, we need some spooky
Yeah, we got
music.
cobwebs in the studio.
We got well, those are not cobwebs; those are
You
spiders.
got to see the size of the
You
spider.
got to see the spider. He's about your size.
That's pretty big.
So when I think of these stories, it just had a flashback to the Twilight Zone. And you have to have a very
Ooh, now we got the music.
an unusual mind to think of some of these very obscure but very disturbing type of stories.
Rod Serling was very talented. He started in radio and moved it over to television in black and white, where we saw William Shatner.
Oh yeah, he was on many times.
Yeah.
many times with that. So was that kind of an inspiration when you watched that when you were younger?
Yes, and Night Gallery also.
Yeah,
It's another
Night
great
Gallery.
show.
Well, I
right.
think Mr. O'Connor has watched every one of those, haven't you? Every one of those Rod Sterling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Serling, yeah.
Serling, yeah.
Yeah.
And Alfred Hitchcock also had a great show. So I would go to the library and start reading his books. And then I turned to Edgar Allan Poe, was another one, a big influence.
Quote the Raven,
Yeah,
Nevermore.
Nevermore.
What a strange name for a raven, Nevermore.
I think he said Nevermore.
That's what he said, didn't he?
Yeah.
Quote the Raven,
Yeah,
Nevermore.
Nevermore, yeah.
Yeah, that was the name of the raven, Nevermore. Here, Nevermore.
So what were some of the other inspirations for you? So
Stephen King was huge.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So did you like the old movies that came on, like the Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Oh, yeah, well, yeah.
And what is it?
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Right?
Yeah.
The werewolf.
That movie
Dracula,
really spooked me out. Creature
Young
from the Black
Frankenstein.
Did you see The House on Hell Hill? I think it was, if I have that right, Shirley Jackson wrote the book. They turned it into a movie, and she taught me that it's not what you see that scares you, it's what you don't see.
Right.
And the walls were breathing in. They're all in this one room at 4 a.m, waiting for the sun to come up, and there's something banging in the door. Then you see the walls pushing in. It's like you can't see what it is. That's what scares you.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there a movie that maybe you saw, like everybody thinks of the Alfred Hitchcock movies and the suspense and the drama and the horror sometimes.
The Shirley Jackson actually scared me.
Yeah.
And the Titanic, the black and white version, that scared me as a little kid. I mean, the idea of drowning at sea, which
In freezing water.
have you ever had that thought?
Sure, many
Okay.
times.
You worked on cruise ships, right?
I did
Yeah.
for many years. No,
But he always wore a life jacket. Even slept with it, didn't you?
all the time.
I would have life underwear, I think.
That's right. That's right. Inflatable ones.
No, so at any rate, I'm really curious as to. We're gonna have to take a break here, Mr. O'Connor. But there's a couple of books here that are coming up that I wanna talk about. This
And
this
some
one,
not even written yet.
well,
they're
we can get
starting.
into
They're
that.
printed, but they haven't been written yet.
Oh, these have.
It's just the cover.
Yep.
That's like my famous quotes of Ron Lutters, a book of 75 pages of just blank paper. Howard produced that, didn't you, Howard?
Well, I'll tell you, we are
Howard's
getting
over here,
ready
isn't it?
for Halloween, and it should be an exciting time. What, 6 days away?
Yeah. And
Buy your candy bars.
Do you
now.
find that strange things happen right around that season, that Halloween, or do you think that most people just kind of instigate that to happen?
I think it picks its own time. We have no control over it. The spirit world, things like that. I have one to share with you eventually.
Okay, well, when we get back from this break, Mr. O'Connor's mesmerized with this creepy music in the back. He's going to bring up something cheery because we're going to have a cheery commercial, I hope, and we could lose the spider webs in the back, and hopefully we'll.
Gloom, despair, and agony on me. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a couple of books here that I want to talk about because this next one is.
And I'm going to tell you a story about a place that I had in Northern California, a historic hotel. But we'll talk about that.
It's the Hotel
coming back
California.
from the break.
Hotel California.
Kind of.
Okay, I think Mr. O'Connor. Mr. O'Connor.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Wait a minute.
Where'd he go?
Hey, Hannah. That's him knocking somewhere.
Come on back. Would you bring me a Ouija board, please, so I can find Mr. O'Connor?
All right, we're going to be right back. Don't go away. Some more stories, some more books. We're here with our special guest, Charlie Glasgow.
And when we get back, we're going to talk about a watery lake.
Yes. And
they're all water,
a
aren't
Ouija board, now that you bring it up.
And a Ouija board.
Yep.
Okay, don't go away. We'll be right back.
This is Peter Martin, financial advisor in the Phoenix metropolitan area. When I seek the truth about what's going on in the world, I listen to Hub Radio Phoenix.
Hi, I'm Marta Llamas and I own a commercial cleaning company. Now that many people will be getting back to work, let's get your facility ready for them with our total disinfecting, wipe down, and fogging procedures. Our two-step process will help you ensure that your offices are safe. Call me today for a free estimate, and together we can help protect your employees. Thank you, and let's continue to stay safe.
In a world where security matters more than ever, Lionheart Security Services stands head and shoulders above the competition. Whether it's airport security, high-rise residential and office security, event security, warehouse security, or even personal security, call the best of the best. Lionheart Security Services. We provide armed and unarmed officers. Our armed officers are held to the strictest standards of 90% accuracy, 20% higher than Arizona standards. When it comes to securing you, your goods, and services. Call Lionheart Security Services, 480-485-2304, or find them on the web at lionheartsecurityservices.com.
Medicare, for someone new to it, can be a very complex thing to understand. Honestly, unless you are a professional like me, I don't see why anyone would bother trying to learn all the ins and outs of it. Hi, I'm Peter Martin, Senior Planning Specialist. And I'll tell you that after many years of helping clients with Medicare, I would approximate that 80% of seniors are in a Medicare plan that is not ideally suited for them. That's a high number, 80%, but it makes sense. Let's face it, the government does not exactly make Medicare easy to understand. Even once you understand it, there are subtle changes from year to year. Most people have better things to do than to keep up with these changes. Considering that my services as a Medicare broker are free to you, I recommend that you outsource the Medicare plan research task and free yourself up to pursue the more enjoyable aspects of life. It's my job to make sure that my clients minimize their medication costs and retain their favorite doctors and specialists within their networks. I will keep up with the annual changes that take place in your plan and will definitely alert you to anything noteworthy. I'll be a resource for you throughout the year as well. You may want to know the patient ratings of specialists to whom you are referred. You may need help with claims or prescription issues. I will be there when those things come up.
Once more. Okay. Shh. 1, 2. Quiet. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Science Fiction Theater, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Ron Lutters, with Ray Michaels
Hello,
and
everyone.
Charles Glasgow.
You know, Ron, it's amazing how music can just affect
Freak you out.
so emotionally. You know, I listened to William Tell Overture over the weekend, and you know, when you hear one thing and you just think of morning. You know, there's
Yes.
there's one da 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 da.
You hear the
And-
birds chirping.
Yeah, and then you hear something like this.
I wrote and recorded that this week.
Oh, did you really?
Yes, that was me.
That was amazing.
It's a the minor key, just like the Young Frankenstein when you hear the violin playing.
Oh yeah. But it's just amazing how it affects
love
you
that movie.
emotionally, and no matter how old you are, you can hear a song and it takes you back to that place, where you were, what you were doing, who you were with.
Music is supposed to evoke a feeling. So when you hear a minor key, something like that, it's supposed to make you feel sad. It's got a minor third. Now, if they make it a major third, it's supposed to make you feel happy. It's like when they put the applause signs in the live audiences years ago, the music is having the same effect.
So like John Philip Sousa would use a major key?
More than likely, yeah, major keys.
Yeah. Now you're a musician as well.
Yes.
So tell us what you play.
I play bass guitar, drums, pianos, organs, and vocals.
And the cantaloupe.
And drums, and if I can find a willing subject, yeah.
All right. So have you played a Hammond B3?
I owned a Hammond B3 and an M3 at the same time with the Leslies.
With the Leslie
Yep.
speaker? That
Yep.
is
So
So
awesome.
you thought you were going to catch him.
No.
Not
I'll
at
tell you
all.
what. If you ever hear music like Gary Puckett used it a lot, the Doors used it a lot.
Yes.
You know that ding 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 ding.
Yeah,
ding,
the
ding,
old
ding,
Hammond
ding, ding,
organ
ding.
Doors, yeah.
company.
Ray was awesome. Yeah.
And what was amazing, because that was a heavy instrument, and they would go on tour, and the
Over
guys
400 pounds.
the guys would have to lift this thing up on stage. And a Leslie speaker, I think it was 2 speakers, and it was on a rotation where you can
Yeah.
control how fast it would spin.
You had
right?
a woofer on the bottom and then a horn on the top that rotated, but they went opposite directions at the same time. And the horn on top, the 2 horns, only had a piece of cotton stuffed in one side of it because you didn't want that sound. Otherwise, it would kill the effect of the Doppler.
Right. And you'd hear the womp, womp, womp,
Yep.
womp, womp, womp.
That's the Doppler, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So you compose as well?
I compose. I've got 3 progressive blues CDs out on Amazon as well. And I've not written or put anything out, I think, since maybe 2013. I'd like to get back into it just because I miss it. But writing, composing, I've been playing since I was in the bars since I was 12.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were in the bar
I was in the bar.
at 12 years
So
old?
you and Doris have a lot in common.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
I worked Vegas like her, and Branson, and Nashville, and
Now, have you worked with other entertainers or solo acts? Or
both. I do solo act. I even do the nursing homes in town. And there's so
Good
much
for
fun.
you. Those people need that, especially
they do.
you know the genre that you do, blues and that. These people kind of lived in the birth of the blues.
Now tell us the difference between a traditional blues and a progressive blues.
Progressive blues might have more jazz influence in it. So you might hear, instead of just say a blues scale with a sharp 4 added into it, a minor pentatonic, and then you might hear a blues like say a Dorian mode, which is going to have it's a minor scale with a major 6.
So would we give us like the name of a song that we would hear that would kind of encompass that genre? Would it be something that was familiar from a particular artist?
Oh yeah. For progressive blues, you can find somebody like Robin Ford. He's a great player. Most people don't know his name, but he's one of the best guitar players in the world.
Do we have any Robin Ford back there?
I took lessons from
No?
him.
Okay.
I took a few lessons from him out in California.
And you play locally here as well?
Yes, I do. I play in a local group. Can I say the name? Or?
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Okay, at Night Flight, and we work all over the metro, but mainly down south, Queen Creek and Santan area. So, but I've worked all over the city with different groups.
Now, the Reeds were very, very popular back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Francine Reed, Margot Reed, here in the Valley. Were you familiar
I
with
did
any of
move
those?
here. I think 2015. I think I moved.
Oh,
here.
okay. Yeah, no, this is
I missed all
before your
Before that
time.
time.
Yeah.
And Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah, of course.
Gee, I remember her when she was skinny.
Oh, she was something
Yeah.
else.
I knew her
Do you,
brother.
do you remember the group that she played with?
The Ronstadts. The Ronstadt family band.
I knew the brother, but I don't recall he was a player.
Wasn't it the Stone Ponies?
Yes, that was her band.
Yeah.
Before that, there was a family group in Tucson. So the Stone
Yeah, that's
Ponies,
where they're from,
Two
Tucson.
of the Eagles, 2 of the members from the Eagles were in that band at one time. Then they went on to get the Eagles going. So
Wow. And then Stevie Nicks, obviously. She's from Tucson. too, I
yeah,
believe.
I thought she was in Phoenix.
Maybe Phoenix,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
Well, you were just full of a lot of information and a lot of talent. So let's get back to
The book.
Viking Lake.
This is the one I'm really concerned with.
You're
and-
concerned?
And speaking
Yes,
of
because
the,
I like lakes.
yes,
I have a boat, and I've never quite seen a cover like that.
You
speaking
never
of-
asked me to go out with you.
Well, that's because I don't trust you.
I don't want to
with
get between you
water.
two. But,
I don't like water sports with Ray Michaels.
speaking of Ouija boards, that was the one thing I got from my grandma after she died. Was I was given her Ouija board,
Really?
and she had
Wait, this was her Ouija board that
her
was
Ouija
given
board.
to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she had prophetic dreams that came true. So this,
Ooh.
yeah, she was something else. Okay, we'll talk about her someday. I dearly love that woman, but she's been gone since 1970.
Viking
Do you still?
Lake.
Is she still
Around?
in contact with you? Yeah.
I think she is sometimes.
Yeah.
You know,
Could be, yeah.
your loved ones sometimes I think
Seance.
are watching over you. You know.
Well, go with the Ouija board. Just follow that through. Any rate, this is kind of a
Viking Lake.
scary cover. If you could pull that up one more time. I like the boat, but if I ever saw that while I was boating,
Viking
I would
Lake
not be
actually,
happy.
it does actually exist in Iowa. And I like to center a story around a town sometimes that does exist to give it some meaning for the local residents around the area as well.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't. But Viking Lake is and my buddy up in Iowa, I think told me something about it. There was a lake where some of the young girls would dump their young babies, and that was how they freed themselves of all that and the shame or whatever. So the lake actually existed. It wasn't Viking Lake, but it was close, like within a few miles. But a professor out of California, and it's Professor William Bates, is from Morro Bay, teaches at the college, and he decided to go take a sabbatical in Viking Lake, and he wanted to write that new book. So he loads into a 72 Charger, one of my favorite cars. See, I put a little stuff of myself in the books.
Yeah, of
sometimes.
course.
And he grabbed his old typewriter. I think it was an Underwood. Mm-hmm. You remember those?
I had one.
My mom had one. That's where I got the inspiration for it.
I still have mine that I used in college.
Oh my gosh.
It's an antique now, believe me.
Some people still prefer to write on the typewriter. So anyway, so he drives cross country and he ends up at Viking Lake, and he finds it through a travel agency. He wants somewhere quiet for the summer. There are 2 lake cottages based on this lake, and across from it there is a convent, and then there's a school for the Catholic kids. And he pulls into the house and he loses the FM radio stations. It was 1971, I think, and Jim Morrison had just died. He had gotten the news, and he was listening to the stations coming in from Omaha, and they were playing the Doors. He lost the FM signal right as he's coming towards the lake. All he could get was AM radio, and the main one was, I think, out of Shenandoah, Iowa, which is where who was it was on the station? The Everly Brothers got their start there, and then in several of these towns are mentioned. Mm-hmm. But this place he's staying at, everything is old school. When you walk in the door, there's a rotary dial telephone. There's no television, but there's a big old radio in the corner of the room. The refrigerator. It's not a standard fridge. It's short, it's on 4 legs, and it's got like a vent on top that's round.
Oh, wow.
Old
That
GE.
would be an old one.
Yeah. Everything about this house. And if you go upstairs, there's some French doors that open onto the lake. And there is an AM radio up there. You can listen to Shenandoah at night. And they do a lot of reruns from back in World War II. Commercials and Glenn Miller songs that were from that era.
Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy by
Yeah.
the Paxtons.
There you go. It sticks with you, doesn't it? So, and there's a fan, an old metal fan. Remember those that were noisy, had metal blades on them?
I do.
But they put you to sleep. The white noise was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the first night he stays there, it's like, well, this is great. This is quiet. I can fit right in here. And a storm is coming in. It takes the power out, shuts the fan off, shuts off the radio. Radio's off by midnight anyway, which is kind of weird for nowadays, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They play the national anthem.
Well, or they don't go off the air
They
at all.
used to.
Yeah, now it's satellite radio, right?
Yeah.
And
Goes around the world.
he can see the lightning coming from the storm. And he's on the lake, so he can hear the winds picking up. And he looks at the foot of his bed in this dark room as the lightning hits, and he can see the shape of a person
Uh-oh.
standing right at the foot of his bed. It's an old priest who just looks at him. When he gets up out of the bed, the priest disappears. And he becomes a regular visitor. And he goes around the lake to the convent to go visit with the head nun or whoever is in charge of administration. Turns out it's not even a nun. It's just an office lady they brought in to take care of the property and all the things. And he's coming in to complain to her about there's a ghost or something going on in my room, in my house. And he looks up on the wall and he sees 2 photos up there. And it's a pair of priests up there. And one of them is the priest that he saw the night before. Mm-mm. And the woman comes down the hallway and taps him on the shoulder and scares the life out of him. So they sit down in his office, and he notices she's got this old typewriter like his. And he comments on it and says, yeah, it's an old typewriter, isn't it? She goes, no, I just got it last year. The nuns bought it for me. There's a fundraiser. He's like, I've got one that's, I think, a year newer, but it's old. So he can't figure out why there's black curtains hanging from all the windows, blackout curtains, which nobody's seen in decades, right? Mm-hmm. Do you remember what those are about?
Usually somebody died.
Bombings.
Oh, the bombings of World War II.
He was in 1945. She was in 1945, and they didn't realize what was going on.
Wow.
When he crossed off the property, he was back in 1972 or so.
Oh.
So this is about time travel,
Yes.
portals. It's about ghosts and demons. There's a house right down the road within 15 minutes with a demon in it that actually does exist. And
To this day.
to this day, they charge people good money to stay the night for the weekend if they can. But you can hear things growling at night. You can see eyes.
Ought to feed them.
You can hear children in the basement. And it was called the Villisca Axe Murder House. It actually does exist. Look it up if you don't believe me.
Wow.
No, thank you.
1912 is when the murders happened. The whole family was wiped out by an axe, a man with an axe, and they never, ever figured out who did it. But it happened in about 5 different states. All the houses were next to a set of train tracks.
Wow. That's this book right here.
Viking Lake.
That's the
Viking
Viking
Lake.
Lake.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tell us about Gravity a little bit.
Gravity's a brand new release. And by the way, Viking Lake is coming out.
Oh, it's not
around
released yet.
Well, no, the Audible book is coming out just before Christmas. And this one also, Mr. Mayflower, is it just was released this week on audible.com, and you can get it there or on Amazon. Now,
Now,
Gravity.
do you do the reading?
No, I don't. I hired a couple of narrators that were really good. I wish I had the time. Eventually, I'll do a couple down the line. This one here is called Gravity. It's just released, and the story starts in 1958. It's an FBI agent out of New York who's been transferred to Des Moines, Iowa, of all places. What's happening in Iowa that could be spooky, right?
That didn't look like Des Moines in that picture.
It's not. It's in a town called Gravity. The town of Gravity, and it's south of the interstate, south of I-80. But there are people disappearing across the state or traveling through, and all of a sudden they disappear. So the FBI is looking into these. There was a state investigator sent in. He disappeared. So this agent, his name is, don't laugh, but Flick Anderson. It was 1958. He was a football player in college, right? And so Flea Flicker, yeah.
Yeah.
And he went down to investigate, and he had all the evidence as far as from missing persons reports and car registration, things like that. So he went down in the town. The town was deserted. Not a person to be found except a little girl. And she would disappear at odd times. But he went to the town repair yard, and he found all of these cars with their plates and registrations intact, hidden away. And he wanted to find out where everybody was at, and the little girl led him to a train that ran from the town at midnight. The tracks,
Comes the spooky music.
yeah, the
too.
tracks were gone, and the train was gone years ago. But it's a phantom train, and he has to ride that out to the coal mine. The mine is about 10 miles north of town, and they shut it down after the Spanish flu. They kept dumping bodies in there because they had nowhere to bury these people. And there's something down there. There's a giant snake waiting inside the bottom of the shaft, and you have to get past get past this snake to get past to the.
Wow, this is scary.
You have to get to a second version of Viking Lake, where no one gets old, nobody dies. There's no roads out of town; they all lead back into town. You can't leave; you're there unless you go back past the snake again.
Through eternity.
Yeah, or until the snake stops providing whatever it provides. And it's kind of a trade-off. It needs to be fed once in a while.
And what does it eat?
One guess. One guess.
So when you think of a lot of
Visitors.
these ideas, and I'm going to go back to the movies, was there ever a movie that you were watching, whether young or old, and you didn't see it coming? You didn't see the end. and it was
the end of Carrie,
yeah.
1977, in the movie theater. And when that hand came out of the grave, like that, and grabbed her, oh my, everybody peed their pants.
Oh yeah, I remember that too. Whoa.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting that.
Now
Kind of embarrassing when you're on a date, though. You know,
Well,
everybody
yeah.
pees their pants. You know.
If we have time, or do we? I wanted to tell about
Well, we
a
got
story coming
we
up.
got about 8 minutes left.
Okay, I have a new one called. It's being written. I have 2 or 3 of them that are for in the early chapters.
Is this
but-
in your head right now?
No, I've written some.
Okay.
Already written some of it down, but it's still in my
Manuscripts, yeah.
head. But there's a story called Exotic Death Inc. And one day, this gentleman is downtown Kansas City. He's left work and he's getting ready to leave, and he walks out in the traffic. Just as he's coming, there's a City Express bus coming right at him. Somebody grabs him by his coat, pulls him back, and pushes somebody else in his place. And he turns him around, and the bus wipes the other guy out. So this main character, looks at the guy who saved him. He said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, that was your ticket that was getting punched, and it didn't happen. But this gentleman paid for your ticket. He gets to go today." And he said, "Well, why would he choose that?" He said, "Well, his wife was on this bus and met him 50 years ago. And they were lovers, sweethearts, and they were married all those years, and she died. But we fear that she's still on the bus waiting for him. So he wanted to go out. He was given a diagnosis of cancer. He would be gone in 6 months, painful death. So he said, that's my way out. I want to meet her on that bus. And he did. So the main character has lost his ticket. And this gentleman who's dressed in a suit, no hair, no facial hair, no nothing, just wearing a suit and a fedora hat. And he says, I can provide you with a ticket to go out any way you choose, when you choose, how you choose. If you'd like to go out on the Titanic, I can make it happen. There'll be a fee, but we can make it happen. We can take you out during one of the battles down the south. we can take you in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, if that's what you want. Some people, when they know they only have 6 months, they're kind of like the folks that like to jump out of planes with parachutes. I don't see the reasoning behind jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. But if it's death and you're going to die anyway, and you're not going to feel anything, why not? Pick your own time, pick your own destination. And that one, it's still going, but he ends up offering him a job instead because he doesn't want to die. And he's going to become the new, let's say, chic Grim Reaper.
Oh boy.
A new job.
Interesting.
This guy's had the job for 300 years and he needs a vacation.
For 300 years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he gets eternal life also with this job. Yeah, lots of benefits.
Oh man.
And what is the name of that one?
That's Exotic Death Inc.
Wow.
Jeez. Okay, once again,
Ron, I want to know, is there a movie that just scared the heck out of you?
yes, and it's one of the big surprises in life. You wouldn't think it was.
Was it
It
Planet
was
of the Apes?
The Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of
the
Oz
Flying
scares
Monkeys.
you.
Couple of things. The first one, when the house fell on the Wicked Witch. You remember it crashed on her? And
I
her
do.
Feet shriveled
In
up.
black and
Remember
white,
that?
yeah.
Oh, that kind of freaked me out.
Well, you have to take the shoes off
And
first.
then oh, that guy's kind of freaky. And then the little monkeys, and then they remember what they did? They torched the broom and stuck it in the witch's face and threw water on her. And, I'm melting. Remember that?
I do.
The only salvation in that movie was Toto, the little dog. That's the only thing that got me through.
I'll get you, my pretty little dog.
I have a mad confession. I still watch it every year.
I do too. I love the movie now.
My
But
daughter
the first time
loved
I
that
saw
movie.
it really freaked me. I don't know how old I was, but it freaked me out.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to give you an idea, $1 million idea. There is a hotel in Northern California. I won't tell you exactly where it is. I'll tell you off camera.
Okay.
Bought it.
Is it the
There
governor's
was-
mansion?
There was there were several murders there.
Ooh.
There were several fires there that happened. Very, very famous. And we bought it, remodeling it, and we had 4 different companies come in to debunk. And they recorded audio, and they recorded video, and they
Nice.
recorded all of that. So I'll tell you about that.
Was it open to the public at one time?
Well, we had it open for the public.
I may have been to that place.
Oh.
Have you experienced a ghost?
Have I?
Yeah.
They stay away from me.
Have you?
I have.
Okay. I have too. Once. That's all I needed.
I did in Gettysburg. You and I discussed that.
Yeah, oh, that's right,
Over
yeah,
the
yeah.
phone.
Yeah. At the
I'm,
hotel.
I'm a Civil War reenactor, and I actually saw a ghost, and I had it pretty much confirmed later. From the people in some of the bookstores, and that when I described the ghost, they said that's not uncommon.
Well, I will tell you this. We had, video cameras set up everywhere, and we had one room that the wait staff would come into and take the dishes and then go out. It was kind of a room between the kitchen and the dining area, and there was only one way in and one way out. And I was watching the videos, and nobody came in. But all of a sudden, somebody in a period piece came into the room, started looking around, walked out, but they didn't come out with the other camera. So we had that on video as well, which was pretty amazing. So
gosh.
have I seen a ghost or experienced? Yes, I have.
Yeah.
But they don't come and bother me.
Sometimes you never know.
No, mine didn't bother me, but like I say, I was kind of shocked.
They didn't come up
Mine's-
and say, "Do you want some candy?"
Would you like some candy, little boy?
Yeah.
No.
Mine scared me. It was actually it turned me into a believer. I was convinced. So
So you have how many books in the works right now?
I have 5 right now that are already published, and then I have 3 that I'm writing on. 3, maybe 4 actually. I've got there's a place called Mr. Lucky's up on the 60.
Yes.
Are you aware of that?
Yes.
And I think Waylon Jennings owned it one time. They had rock bands on one level and
Yeah.
That's
country
right.
on the
Yep.
other.
Yep.
But I am tying that into a story with the canals that go around the city. Sometimes the police find dead bodies.
Sometimes?
Yes, they do. Oh, yeah.
No.
And of course all these dust devils or dirt devils that you see south of town.
Yeah.
Okay. The Indian lore is that those are spirits trying to escape from underneath, buried in the caves. And there's a story of a couple of young children who were sucked up by the dirt devils and brought back down again. So these devils kind of haunt this Native American who's on the properties down there. And because once you've been touched by it, your life changes.
Yeah.
So, but there'll be murders, there'll be different stuff going on. A story for Phoenix eventually. So.
Wow. So Amazon.com, Charlie Glasgow, he is here. You're not only an author, but a musician. You play around
yes,
town.
a
Tell us
singer,
the name
musician.
of it. Singer? Singer too?
Singer also, yeah.
All right. So who do you
vocalist.
emulate?
Well, I don't know.
What kind of music?
Oh, we
Is it
do
the
everything
blues?
classic rock to country.
Wow.
Very little blues, but so we got to do what sells for the clubs around town. So.
Absolutely.
But I do about a dozen voices also. I entertained on the circuit by myself, not anymore, but.
So give us some of the artists that you would.
Will June.
Well, I hope
That
your
was my Mr. Ed. How'd you like that?
I hope your music is a little more joyful than what we're listening
It
to right
is.
now.
It's not the blues.
If it's country, he lost his truck, he lost his girl, he lost his dog. he
Play
lost
backwards,
his
they all
house.
come back,
His
right?
dog
Yeah, that's
ran
right.
away. His girlfriend ran off with the dog.
True story.
And okay, listen, we appreciate you being here. We're listening to I was going to say Charles, but then you think I'm.
You'd
your
be his
parents.
mom again.
Charlie Glasgow. Go.
Glasgow?
There's
Glasgow.
That's right. There's no
Glasgow. Any rate, he's here. He's got these books, and I would encourage you to purchase them. And I hope you enjoyed some of these kind of spooky stories at Halloween. We don't do trick or treat here, and this is the first time we've ever attempted to do this. So we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Marta Llamas and I own a commercial cleaning company. Now that many people will be getting back to work, let's get your facility ready for them with our total disinfecting, wipe down, and fogging procedures. Our two-step process will help you ensure that your offices are safe. Call me today for a free estimate, and together we can help protect your employees. Thank you, and let's continue to stay safe.
In a world where security matters more than ever, Lionheart Security Services stands head and shoulders above the competition. Whether it's airport security, high-rise residential and office security, event security, warehouse security, or even personal security, call the best of the best. Lionheart Security Services. We provide armed and unarmed officers. Our armed officers are held to the strictest standards of 90% accuracy, 20% higher than Arizona standards. When it comes to securing you, your goods, and services. Call Lionheart Security Services, 480-485-2304, or find them on the web at lionheartsecurityservices.com.
Medicare, for someone new to it, can be a very complex thing to understand. Honestly, unless you are a professional like me, I don't see why anyone would bother trying to learn all the ins and outs of it. Hi, I'm Peter Martin, Senior Planning Specialist. And I'll tell you that after many years of helping clients with Medicare, I would approximate that 80% of seniors are in a Medicare plan that is not ideally suited for them. That's a high number, 80%, but it makes sense. Let's face it, the government does not exactly make Medicare easy to understand. Even once you understand it, there are subtle changes from year to year. Most people have better things to do than to keep up with these changes. Considering that my services as a Medicare broker are free to you, I recommend that you outsource the Medicare plan research task and free yourself up to pursue the more enjoyable aspects of life. It's my job to make sure that my clients minimize their medication costs and retain their favorite doctors and specialists within their networks. I will keep up with the annual changes that take place in your plan and will definitely alert you to anything noteworthy. I'll be a resource for you throughout the year as well. You may want to know the patient ratings of specialists to whom you are referred. You may need help with claims or prescription issues. I will be there when those things come up.
Welcome back to Backstreet Gossip, news talk, current events, and political commentary. And now here's your host, Ronald Lutters.
Wow, we still got the same set. My God,
That's good.
This is really spooky, I'll tell you. I wasn't expecting this. At any rate, we're back here. The names have changed a little bit. We have Robert to my right, and of course the very lovely and talented. Whoa! Now we're in the studio. How was that? And Esther, and they are. Well, we're gonna bring you back in just a minute. We're going to play something just before that. The Pino, the president in name only. By the way, I heard now I hear a lot of people saying Pino.
Do you?
Yeah, so we
That
started
right here
that
on this
we
show.
started that the day he was elected, calling him the Pino, and so now he is the president in name only. And I've even heard it on Fox News. That's where
Have
they're
you?
calling him that now too.
That's wow.
So at any rate, we the president in name only just had a. What was it, a town hall?
A town hall on CNN.
And,
yeah, Anderson Cooper.
And it was the comedy hour, I think. And it was kind of tragic to see a grown man behave the way he did.
But you know, he did mention Arizona and
Yes.
our very own Senator
Kirsten
Sinema. Yeah.
who is, thank God, she's holding tough. And she's a Democrat. She's holding tough against the Democrats. And this excites me because it's about time that the Democrats got real serious about life in America.
Yeah.
And it's not the way it used to be. And thank God she wants to keep it the way it has been, because it's been really, really good for me. So anyway, we're going to go back into this in just a moment. Mr. O'Connor, do you have that up?
I do, sir.
Could you play it, please?
There's a lot of Democrats in the House and Senate who are confused about where Senator Sinema actually stands on things. And I know she's been negotiating directly with you and the White House. What is your read on her? And obviously, you need her to remain positive in your direction, so I don't know what you're going to say. But what is your read on her? Do you know where she stands?
First of all, she's smart as the devil, number one. Number two, she's very supportive of the environmental agenda in my legislation. Very supportive. She's supportive of almost all the things I mentioned relating to everything from family care to all those issues. Where she's not supportive is she says she will not raise a single penny in taxes on the corporate side and/or on wealthy people. Period.
Are you saying once you get this current agenda passed on spending and social programs, that you would be open to fundamentally altering the filibuster, or doing away with it, or doing away with it?
Well, that remains to be seen. Exactly what that means in terms of fundamentally altering it, whether or not we just end the filibuster straight up.
But when it comes to voting rights,
Voting rights is equally as consequential.
when it comes to voting rights, just so I'm clear, though, you would entertain the notion of doing away with the filibuster on that one issue. Is that correct?
And maybe more. The existential threat to humanity is climate change. If we reached beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in temperature, we're gone.
Should police officers, emergency responders, be mandated to get vaccines? And if not, should they be stay at home or let go?
Yes and yes. The two things that concern me, one are those who just try to make this a political issue. Freedom. I have the freedom to kill you with my COVID. No, I mean, come on, freedom.
What will you do without freedom? For one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom! Alma Cabral!
Well, I hope you all enjoyed that. I think that was Braveheart at the end there. Freedom, freedom, freedom.
Yes.
And I don't know where this man comes from. I don't know where he... How do you get the concept that because you want to be free that you're going to kill people with COVID? I've never heard such a preposterous
It's
thing.
absurd. The whole thing is absurd. He's bringing things up that he doesn't even understand the concept of individual rights, liberties, or freedoms.
And you'd think a guy that's been in Washington, D.C. for 48 years would have some concept of individual liberty.
No, but that's the problem because he is part of the machine. He is deep, deep, deep into the swamp. He feels that he is above everybody else and that we need him to dictate rules and regulations for our life. And it's just not true.
Well, listen, right now we have some people here that we are really excited to talk to because they are seeking freedom. And that is freedom of choice. And that is guaranteed in our Constitution, no matter what you're being told. And they belong to, can we mention your company?
Absolutely.
Okay. It's one of the largest manufacturers of aircraft, both defense and civilian aircraft. That's the Boeing Corporation. They have a big facility right here in Mesa. And right now they are requiring that all of their employees get the jab. You notice I don't say the vaccine. I say the jab because it is not a vaccine. A vaccine is quite different than sticking chemicals into your body. So you guys have decided that you have rights as well. You know, you don't have to do. You know, we talked, Esther and I talked on the phone, and Ray, of course, we've discussed this many times about what fascism is. Fascism is when private companies try to enforce governmental rules and regulations. This is not a rule. It is not a regulation. It is not a mandate. And this is where everybody has gone wrong. This was just a dumb, I won't use the other word that I was going to.
It was a press release.
A dumb statement in a press release.
Yeah.
And American industry has gone nutso over this.
Yeah.
So tell us, what are you guys doing? I've heard a lot about you. You guys are out there on the street and making lots of noise. Matter of fact, when I was on the phone with you, I could hardly hear because cars were going by honking their horns in support. I was happy to hear that.
Isn't that wonderful? And we're finding that there's just been so much support, and we're really grateful for your time and allowing us to.
Oh, this is exactly what we want to do, Esther. I mean, we're all about freedom. As a matter of fact, one of the mottos we have here, free speech for a free people.
Yeah.
You know, it's important.
Well, Esther, Robert, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. And like Ron said, I know you heard a little bit earlier, is we talk about a lot of things that it takes maybe a couple days or even weeks before it gets to the mainstream media. So thank you so much. We saw there was a big email blitz about what happened today, right? It was in Mesa at the Boeing area. I'm not sure exactly where that is, but it was there. Now, here's one thing that we've talked about before that I find so strange. You see, there was not a mandate. There was not a federal law. It was never discussed in Congress. Nothing came out from OSHA. It's just a press release that they said we're going to do this. And these big corporations, which we know get a lot of funding through the federal government, they said, okay, we'll do whatever you want us to do. All right, but here's what really bothers me, and Ron, I know it bothers you as well. All of Congress is exempt. They don't have to participate in this.
And the post office.
The post office is exempt. They don't have to participate.
And labor unions.
Labor unions are exempt. Now,
and Ray, one other thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Illegal aliens are
Illegal aliens are exempt. The employees of Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, they're all exempt. So I'm hearing that even the religious exemption in some walks, especially in the medical field, are being denied, yet they get exemptions and they're forcing you to do something that they're not willing to do, and they work for us. So tell me, Robert, how long have you been with Boeing?
6 years.
6 years. What, are you able to tell us what you do there?
Yep. So before we get started, one thing I wanted to explain is that all of us who are standing up right now, we love our jobs. We love what we do. We like who we work with, and a lot of our managers are fantastic, right? And so, I mean, we don't represent the company in any way, shape, or form in this interview, which is normal. But when we talked about why they're doing these things, it's a little obvious why, but we are not able to sit silent when these type of mandates come towards your way. So as far as what I do, I literally break things.
We can see. You're a big guy.
I do too. But
he walks through the doors, handle breaks.
I'm not supposed to do that, but I break about everything I touch. I'm clumsy.
Well, I'm supposed to. So you're supposed to break it before it flies, right?
That's a good thing.
Otherwise, when it breaks, like your car, you're driving
your car. It breaks in the air. It's
a good thing. It breaks, you just pull over. You
want to know the limitations of what it can do. So you push everything to the full limitation.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Fun job. Fantastic.
Now, Esther, what do you do for Boeing?
I'm an analyst.
Analyst.
Yep, I sit behind a computer, so a little less fun. No breaking stuff on purpose. Anyway.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm so glad that you had mentioned that you love your company, you love what you do, you love your job, and you know what? It seems as though in a free country, I can just do whatever I want. They said we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that we've all been endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, which are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That's not all of them. That's just 3. But your life. Now, if you have a certain condition, medical condition, you both look super healthy, but maybe you have a history. Your family has a history of something. And they're asking you to take something that has not gone through the normal test. I hear a lot, Ron, we hear this a lot, that, the polio vaccine or mumps, rubella, and measles, those were all mandated and everybody, there are exemptions to that.
But they were truly vaccines.
Well, they were vaccines and they were time tested.
Yes.
And thirdly, they didn't give the shots in the pandemic.
Right.
They came after.
Right.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. That's really important, ladies and gentlemen, because what they're asking us to do, all of us, I don't
is to be part of a big experiment.
But yeah, they're telling me I need to do this because I'm too stupid to try to stay healthy and stay away
Ron,
from...
are you anti-vax?
No.
No, and I think a majority of the people are not anti-vax. They're just anti somebody forcing you to do something that you don't want to do. We experience this with healthcare too. You have to do it. It's mandated. You have to buy something from a company.
Well, Obamacare was that same
right.
nonsense.
So that was like the prequel to this, but now it's affecting us personally, because it would be like saying, you can't go out to a fast food restaurant because that food is bad for you. You can't ingest that.
I'll say it's worse.
Oh, it's much worse.
So I'm thinking Christmas is coming up. What do you think about what you're doing for your family for Christmas? With us, we're faced with the decision
of losing
December
your job
8th to be out of a job before Christmas with your family. And the plan that I understand is that you don't lose your job, you go on unpaid leave, which means we didn't fire you, right?
So they're trying to skirt the law.
So now are you going to be able to pick up unemployment if it's unpaid leave?
That is still, we're trying to figure that out. But they may not be an option depending on how the separation happens, because it's not on their side. It's they say, well, you didn't fill the requirements of the job.
But when you originally made that contract with them, was that a requirement of the job, or have they changed?
No, that was
the
not part of
course?
our job scope or skills, or even our reviews in the past years. They have different rating systems, and if you exceed expectations year after year, this is a new requirement added.
So what's stopping, Esther, what's stopping them from saying, you know what, we like you to work, we don't want you to have any children, we're going to force sterilization on you?
Absolutely crossing a line.
Well, I mean, it's medical, right? For years and years, people have been saying, my body,
My choice.
my choice.
Right.
So where are those people
Right now.
And-
They're delivering a different message right now.
And these people aren't there. Let me get into this with her, because this is really important. You hinted at it. Okay, there are. Thank God during World War II we had some phenomenal companies. Okay, we had Boeing. They made aircraft for wars. We also had Northrop Grumman and so forth. I don't know.
McDonnell Douglas.
McDonnell Douglas,
Yeah.
a number of them. Thank God for these companies.
GD.
They were really right there doing what was needed for the war effort. Okay. And, you have a scenario here where these companies, the products that are produced are not in the tens of millions of dollars, but in the tens of billions of dollars. And that's a pretty hefty contract by anybody's imagination here, or standards. Could it be that Boeing is afraid that if they don't do what the Pino, the president name only, is telling him, that perhaps some of that money will go to a competitor? I don't. There's not many competitors today. I think Grumman is still in business. That's about it, I think.
So, but the president doesn't control the purse strings.
No, but
It's
the Democrat
Congress.
Party right now is playing games, as you know, Ray. This $3.5 trillion fiasco that they're talking about, which includes if you write a check for more than $600, the government can look at your bank account. Come on, are you kidding me?
That's because you're rich.
Yeah, it's $600. Yeah, right.
We want everybody to know who's watching too. We like to bring on hot topics like this, and we want you to be informed about what's going on, because they're living this every day, and you may be living it every day at your work as well. And you may get some helpful information about how they're working together with maybe some other organizations that are helping you along in this process. What I see coming forward is that there's going to be a big Supreme Court case. There's going to be a lot of wrongful terminations. And I believe that they're trying to dismantle our medical department, our the ability to build defense weapons. And it leaves us very, very vulnerable, both medically and militarily. And I just see this coming. I'm curious if you've gone to your boss and said, could you please show me the federal mandate that specifically states that I have to do this? Can you show that to me? Because it doesn't exist. No. There was not an executive order. There was nothing from OSHA. There's nothing in writing that you can even sue, because it's all floating around. So if you went to your boss, who you said you really like, and you said, look, just show me, I'm willing to cooperate in the best that I can. I'd like to make my decision based on the facts. Show me what the facts are.
So I did pose that question to my boss, and I sent an email in writing. And what he did was he invited the HR rep come talk to us the next day.
Okay.
And that HR rep gave us a executive order. I think it's so. Boeing sent an email saying with the requirement, it said it was an executive order. You click the link, it takes you to the White House website.
So an executive order from HR?
No,
an
except from the president. So I said,
okay.
So the email sent.
Okay.
Looked a little suspicious. It said, executive order came over, we have to do this now. And you click the link, it takes you to the White House website,
okay,
which is not an executive order. So I emailed my boss, said, hey, I know how to look up executive orders. You go to the Federal Register, right? You pull up executive orders. They have a number assigned.
Right.
He said, I don't know, I'll check it out. So he got...
Go ahead, keep talking.
He got HR to come in and visit our group, which we appreciate it, right? I mean, and they came out and said, hey, here's the executive order that we have been given. I think it's EO 14042. But that one is for defense contractors, and you may have double checked me, but I believe that's the one off the top of my head. And that one, if I paraphrase, it just says, hey, all the levers of government, just see if you can apply pressure to eliminate COVID. There's no direction in it. Even if it did, the president couldn't tell citizens to do anything specifically, but they're definitely putting information out, and they're learning as they go. I don't think the lower management has the information. They're trying to provide it.
So because it doesn't exist and you're requesting it, how could they even threaten you by saying you're going to be, you're not going to be working without pay based on what? I mean, couldn't you just call an attorney and say, write a letter and say, you must provide this information of what the actual direction is so that I can take it to my doctor, I can take it to my pastor, my priest, my rabbi, whoever, and that I can make an informed decision as a free person. Is that possible?
Esther, I've been talking a lot. Do you want to?
Well, so that's not happening. What is happening is there's a lot of pressure in the way it's being presented, my understanding at least in Mesa and then Washington, where I have friends who are part of SPIA. I'm understanding that it's more, they'll support you with exemptions, but the whole conversation about this being more about a person's rights is dismissed largely.
Well, again, Ron, and I don't mean to take over the conversation, but my dad worked for the post office for about 30 years, right? So they obviously have an exemption. They're a federal employee, right? So your choice to work in the field that you're in and their choice to work in the post office is just a choice that we make as a free citizen. How come they get that?
And Ray, sadly,
if you ran for office, you wouldn't be forced to do
sadly,
this.
Ray, they don't see the public as much as a postman sees the public. So the chances of a postman spreading COVID are much greater than this young man trying to bust things up in an airplane that they're under design.
His mom said he's been doing it since he was a little kid.
Yeah, this little toy airplane. Bam. No, but isn't that true? Do you see the public much?
No.
Do you see the public
I work from
much?
home.
So
Even she works from home.
Even
so
the
she
work
needs to
from
get a
home
shot
is
so
required.
that your dog doesn't get it or something. You know?
we're
Hold
right.
on. Dogs have COVID.
Oh, do they?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
And dogs are people too.
Do they have to have a shot?
No.
Dogs don't have to have a.
No, but they actually have
Jim?
COVID. I don't know if you know
Really?
that.
I
Yes,
didn't know
yes.
So Esther, we're a right to work state, but is there a union, a Boeing employees union?
Not in Arizona State.
Okay, so in another state, because if one state does it and they have a big support, normally they can help out by company-wise. So are there other states with unions with Boeing that they're protecting their employees or no?
My understanding is SPIA is willing to support employees in getting the exemptions filled out, but again, what we're arguing is that the exemption is overreach. The mandate is overreach.
What about
Which mandate? We don't know.
Become vaccinated or
What
No,
are we doing about?
there isn't a mandate.
Seattle. Seattle's the headquarters. What about the headquarters? Do they require
So
it? In,
Chicago is the headquarters.
oh, it is.
Corporate
I
office.
thought the corporate office were out of Seattle.
No.
But
they have
A big
most of their
plant.
employees in
large
Seattle.
presence.
do they require it?
That's
Good question.
as far as the headquarters.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I do know that there's a couple states that have passed certain laws. I think Wyoming and Texas, and they I don't know if they necessarily require it in those states.
Well, let's look at this thing from this perspective, and I think this is important. Okay. and I never could understand this. I'm going to draw a parallel, and you both young people, so you may not see it. But do you remember Jonestown, when this minister, I can't think of his name, Ray, if you can remember, and everybody drank the Kool-Aid and died. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You remember that?
That's the drink the Kool-Aid. That's where it came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, drink the Kool-Aid. It poisoned everybody. And so what I say about the vaccine only works if everybody drinks the Kool-Aid. What that means is, I don't understand why if you're vaccinated, I have to have a vaccination as well to protect you, which you've already got the vaccine, which tells me, being logical, you can call me Spock from Star Trek.
Live long and prosper.
Yeah, the logical thing is, if you're vaccinated, what does it matter to you whether I am? You should be protected, and you're not. That's the sinful
You're
thing
preaching
about
to the
this.
choir, right?
I know
You
I
that.
am.
Yeah.
I know I am. But this is the group that I'm. It doesn't work, folks.
Okay, so I'm
That's the
curious,
problem.
Esther. Are you married? You have children? You have to worry about them going to school, all of that. Tell us where you're at.
Unmarried, no children, but I have family and friends and many
Nieces,
coworkers
nephews, yeah.
that I've worked with for a decade. So I care about them, and I care about the fact that they're being put under such pressure and making medical decisions because of this.
Now, Robert, how about you? You married? You have children?
Oh yeah, I'm an old married guy with 4 children.
Oh,
4.
wow.
All right, so they go to school in Mesa as well?
No, they don't go to school. I guess one in Gilbert. I have 1 graduated high school, and then 2 that do from home.
You don't look that old to have kids out of high school already.
All right, I can't wait to continue this conversation. We're going to be back here. Stick around, don't go away.
We're talking with Esther and Robert from Boeing, and we're going to be right back. There's more to come. Don't go away.
Medicare, for someone new to it, can be a very complex thing to understand. Honestly, unless you are a professional like me, I don't see why anyone would bother trying to learn all the ins and outs of it. Hi, I'm Peter Martin, Senior Planning Specialist. And I'll tell you that after many years of helping clients with Medicare, I would approximate that 80% of seniors are in a Medicare plan that is not ideally suited for them. That's a high number, 80%, but it makes sense. Let's face it, the government does not exactly make Medicare easy to understand. Even once you understand it, there are subtle changes from year to year. Most people have better things to do than to keep up with these changes. Considering that my services as a Medicare broker are free to you, I recommend that you outsource the Medicare plan research task and free yourself up to pursue the more enjoyable aspects of life. It's my job to make sure that my clients minimize their medication costs and retain their favorite doctors and specialists within their networks. I will keep up with the annual changes that take place in your plan and will definitely alert you to anything noteworthy. I'll be a resource for you throughout the year as well. You may want to know the patient ratings of specialists to whom you are referred. You may need help with claims or prescription issues. I will be there when those things come up.
Hi, I'm Marta Llamas and I own a commercial cleaning company. Now that many people will be getting back to work, let's get your facility ready for them with our total disinfecting, wipe down, and fogging procedures. Our 2-step process will help you ensure that your offices are safe. Call me today for a free estimate, and together we can help protect your employees. Thank you, and let's continue to stay safe.
In a world where security matters more than ever, Lionheart Security Services stands head and shoulders above the competition. Whether it's airport security, high-rise residential and office security, event security, warehouse security, or even personal security, call the best of the best. Lionheart Security Services. We provide armed and unarmed officers. Our armed officers are held to the strictest standards of 90% accuracy, 20% higher than Arizona standards. When it comes to securing you, your goods, and services. Call Lionheart Security Services, 480-485-2304, or find them on the web at lionheartsecurityservices.com.
That would be me. And political commentary, you bet. We're talking about that tonight. We're talking about what I call freedom, but even more so, I call it liberty. And there's a difference between freedom and liberty. The President of the United States, Pino here, was talking about that. You don't have the freedom to kill somebody with COVID. You saw that. Ray brought that in. And you know, we don't have freedom in America. We have liberty in America, and there's a big difference. And the difference is that liberty is freedom under the law. And the law of the country is the Constitution. If you don't believe it, read the Constitution. It tells you in it that it is the supreme law of the land. Make no mistake about it. You don't see anything in that Constitution that tells you that a press conference makes it mandatory to take things that are your own personal choice. You do not have to listen to the government under any condition. Then when the president comes out and says, you need to get a vaccine, I don't know where these people are coming from, and it's time that you begin to maybe make some choices in the next election.
Well, it's the mainstream media that is just promoting this and pushing this,
It
right?
is.
So, Ron, just refresh everybody's memory on the 10th Amendment.
Well, the 10th Amendment is an interesting amendment. It was made early on in the early days of our country by a gentleman by the name of Roger Sherman, who was one of the founding fathers of our country. And they were concerned that the federal government would have way too much power. Hence, they had the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, which we call the Bill of Rights. Those are our rights, okay? They're granted to us by God, and they're codified as our rights. And the 10th Amendment says very specifically, if these rights, well, I don't want to say right, if the laws and the Constitution, by what the Congress's power and the President's power and the court's power, if they are not specific there, they are left up to the states and to the people. We are the people. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get
Yeah,
that straight.
anything not
Specifically mentioned in the Constitution, and I don't recall anything. Do you, Robert, that says you got to
No.
take a vaccine? How about it, Esther?
See, I
Did
think
you
people
see
forget
anything?
about this, and we
No.
talk about this all the time.
No.
If it's a parent-child relationship, the states are the parent, and the federal government is the child. But for some way, it'd be like your child saying, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do this, and you better let me do it, to the parent. Well, the states are all sovereign states, just like what Ron DeSantis is doing in Florida and the governor of Texas.
By the way,
and
I want to interrupt here.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Ron DeSantis is going along with what you're saying about vaccinate. It's your choice. Did you know that today a record was hit? Florida has the lowest number of new COVID cases per capita of any state, because they're allowing the people to decide what is good for themselves. What a living concept is that? That is beautiful. Now, I wanted to talk to you just for a minute, if you don't mind, We had a friend of ours, a very close friend, Randy Miller, who's on our show constantly, spoke, I guess, before you today. And could you fill us in on what he said? Either one of you, whoever, or you both, take your turn.
So I had the pleasure of hearing Randy speak last week. He's been out twice now to support the team. You were actually there today, though. Do you want to fill us in?
So what Randy did is he wanted to empower people to take their rights and to not cede them to another power. Who has the right over your medical freedom?
You do.
You do. And he went through just the state constitution, Arizona state constitution, which is pretty clear, and it went through the United States Constitution, went through the Declaration of Independence, right? Just kind of laying out our mission statement, which is the Declaration of Independence, and our Constitution and our state constitution. And those rights are actually supposed to be with us people.
Exactly.
And if we...
That's why it starts, we the people. It's phenomenal. These people that found this country were geniuses. They were absolutely in favor of us, generations yet unborn, and yet generations that will be unborn from our generation.
And they warned us, Ron, they warned us that this could take place.
A day would come when the government would overstep its bounds.
Right, and we are private citizens. We are not persons. And I don't know if you've watched the show before, but we've had on Josh Barnett and David Jose, and they go through this not only from a constitutional, U.S. constitutional, but the Arizona Constitution. And it says, all persons shall do this, but a private citizen is exempt. I mean, I'm paraphrasing.
Persons refer to the...
somebody taking an oath.
Elected.
Yeah.
If you're a person, you're an elected person.
Elected or
But if
somebody
you're
who works
people-
for a governmental agency that takes an oath to protect the private person's rights, or we the people, the people's rights against this tyranny. And so we forget that, and we just say, oh, well, I'm a person. I want to be a person. Well, then you have to do it. But we're not really persons.
We're people.
People, and we're private citizens. It's really interesting, but I'm sure he went over that today with you.
He didn't spend that much time going through that distinction.
Well, it's in a general speech. No, I mean we go into this thing pretty heavy over that first time that he brought that up.
Esther, what do you know about HIPAA?
HIPAA. A couple of years ago, I would have said, how the heck is any of this getting through? Our personal medical health information, this just wouldn't have...
Do you know that an employer cannot say, do you have an infectious disease? They can't ask you that question because it's protected under HIPAA. Right?
HIPAA
so
laws,
how
yes.
can they ask you, have you received the jab?
I've asked that question, said this shouldn't be happening.
And what was the response?
They pointed back to the presidential mandate.
There is no mandate.
I know.
See, they're lying to you.
Yes.
So we can go to a third-party trusted website to input our information, and only the key people would need to know our information would be privy to it.
Oh, I don't even know that anybody needs to, even third parties.
Yeah.
A doctor may want to know what your status is. Here's something that I'm going to show you something.
Are you pulling out money again?
I'm going to find. No. This is my little knife, but on my little knife there is a little magnet. See that? You've heard about graphene, right?
Yeah.
Some of these shots are loaded with graphene, right?
Allegedly. We have to be careful what we say.
Allegedly. This, if a person has graphene, not only on the spot where the injection was made, you can put a magnet and it'll stick to them. Now, have you ever considered yourself to be magnetic? Well, you're a woman. You're always magnetic.
She could have a magnetic personality.
Women are always magnetic, but yeah. And you know what else I do? I just bought some chicken yesterday.
You bought a chicken?
No.
Was it alive?
No.
Oh, sorry.
And I lay that down on the package Because I don't know, you said dogs can get, I don't know what they're feeding these chickens. Could it be graphene? So I lay that on, and if the magnet slides off, I buy the chicken. If the magnet sticks, here, I give it to somebody else.
Boy, I'd hate to go out to a restaurant with you, Rod.
Just don't use metal plates.
So Esther, where do we go from here? Tell us where you've come from to today and what your plans are for the future.
Well, we have Boeing employees that are standing out on the corner daily, 7 to 4:30, to try and spread the message, educate, be available to let the people that are feeling the immense pressure know that there are other resources and options.
Now, what is that corner? Is it McDowell?
Higley and McDowell.
And Higley.
North Mesa.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's right on the corner of Higley and McDowell.
And all are welcome to attend and support. We've had people drive an hour plus just to be with us on that corner.
For a day.
That's awesome.
And when they've been on the phone, you hear lots of honking.
Yeah, what's the response out there? Because you're almost in New Mexico, right? Higley and McDowell. Well, I grew up here. So you go past, like Hayden, and that was out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
Apache Junction. Are you past Apache Junction? Or not quite there? Okay, all right. I haven't been out there in a long time.
Yeah, no, it's so it started with just a couple of guys on the corner, and that was a few days ago. And so today we had Carrie Lake out, and we had
Alex.
I mean,
Alex Colladin?
No. Alex
Jones?
Soho, is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we've had him on the show.
Yeah.
And Randy Miller, we've had a ton of support.
Randy all the time. Yeah.
We've had Carrie Lake on the show here
had
too,
Carrie
as well.
Lake here. Is that right here?
She did.
Wow,
Yeah,
I feel
she did.
special.
And we haven't,
same mic
and
as
we haven't
Carrie
wiped
Lake.
the seat or the microphone or anything. You're experiencing it right here. So what does the future hold? So we're in the process, and this is going to get out to a lot of people. We encourage you to go out to Higley and McDowell Road, and you're there every day.
7 to 4:30.
7 to 4:30, and just we want to encourage you to get involved. A lot of people sit around and they think, well, what can I do? Well, there's a lot of things that you can do. Do you have a website that you have started?
We do.
Okay, what is that website?
BoeingPatriots.com.
Boeing Patriots. Now it's not pronounced like Boeing, right? Tell us how you spell Boeing.
BOEING Patriots. One word. .com.
All right, and I'm sure that you are you in a fundraising mode as well? Is it give us kind of the background of Boeing Patriots?
So all of this has been funded by individuals in our group. So it's been quite a challenge with 43 days left to work, supposedly. So it would be fantastic if there are any listeners that would help us out. And I don't know how mature that the donations is on their website.
We're developing it, but if anyone has questions, they can reach out to our email address and probably get a call from me.
What is the
to
email?
coordinate.
What is the email?
I think it's BoeingPatriots@protonmail.com.
That's correct.
Protonmail.com?
Are these people taking the time off work, or someone works Saturdays and this is a day off during the week? Or I'm sure that Boeing's not paying them to be on a picket line.
Absolutely not. So some people have personal time off, and they're taking that with their current circumstances, because everybody has a lot of things that they're going through right now, especially as they're looking at termination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or unpaid leave. But we have one of our founders, one of the first people out there, he just put it on the lines that I will be there 7 to 4 every day until this gets resolved, because, if we don't speak out now, there's going to be a time where you can't speak out.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, some people are...
I like that concept because there were some people in Germany that you probably have heard that story when they said the Nazis came for labor union craftsmen and that, and the guy was a minister actually, and he said first they came for the labor unions, and I said nothing because I didn't belong to the labor union. He says, then I'll make it short. They came for the Jewish people, and I said nothing because I wasn't Jewish. Then they came after me, and there was nobody to save me.
Yeah, yeah.
So you got to stop it right now.
before it gets worse.
Yes.
So I'm curious because this seems like it's everything's being funneled into a perfect storm. So we know that there's a big supply chain issue. Have you noticed anything working at Boeing? You're at home on a computer, so probably not so much. But you're there. Are you finding that the raw materials that you need are not being brought in as they should?
So the biggest difference for me is when it says in stock, it may mean 5 weeks. So there is some delay. I'm not on the production side of it. It's more of the development and test. So the things that we order, sometimes they're in stock, and in stock means.
Well, there used to be this just in time inventories, but I think that with the supply chain, it's really messed it up.
Well, it just seems to me that they're working all parts of the picture to an end result that doesn't look very favorable. You remove the workers, you remove the product, you remove the ability to make things, and we're going to be in a position where anybody can come in from the outside and say, well, we have everything, and we're just going to take this because you
for
can't.
instance, Airbus in Europe, I don't know if they're having the same problems, but they're one of your competitors, Boeing's competitors, Airbus, for the civilian side, certainly.
Correct.
I'm not certain what the impact is for them, but I would imagine it would be similar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we definitely support you. We admire you for going out there. It's very, very difficult because you're in a position where you've been with the company for many, many years. You have longevity with them. You have bills that need to be paid. You have children that need to be raised. And here from the outside, people are coming in and going totally against what our government foundation was. And they're saying to you, hey, you need to make a choice. And it's really, they need to make a choice. When I see the Pino speaking, I'm thinking, who do you really think you are? You work for us. You are representing us. You do what we ask you to do. You don't tell me what to do, and it must be so frustrating for you. And we really empathize with the situation that you're in because the countdown is clicking. I mean, it's coming to that head, and we encourage everybody to get out there and support the people at Boeing because you know what? It definitely affects every part of your life, whether it's an airplane that is being manufactured or military equipment that is protecting us. Maybe you're not taking flights, but your family members are flying in. This affects all of us in an intimate way, and it's so important that you support causes like this.
Well, let's look at some of this from another perspective as well. The company has put a lot of money into your training.
The company has expressed many times they do not want any less employees after the date.
You see, what I'm thinking, and I listen to the police and the fire go through this as well. Think about all the money they've spent to train you and bring you into the Boeing way of life and train you as to how to deconstruct an aircraft in your case, and how to do your work with computers and being an analyst. For a company, it just seems so weird from my perspective. It's just to take these people and say, okay, we put tens of thousands of dollars in training into you, but we're going to let you go just like that because of something that's so innate. I'm sorry, I just can't go along with this concept. So many people, and I won't go who they are, there's people in this very room that have had COVID, did not have a jab, have had COVID, and now they're going to get a shot when they have all the immunities. They've already paid their dues with this disease, and now they're going to have to get a shot. This doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And all of the, I don't know how many people are involved with this, but nationwide, millions and millions of dollars in training people to do their job. But you're going to put that on hold?
Didn't we go through this? I mean, you're all familiar with Nuremberg, right? And the Nuremberg Code. And it specifically says that against international law that you cannot force somebody to take an experimental vaccine. And if you look if you just kind of lay it out, I mean, it's there for you to look at. Vaccines, and I put that in quotes, normally take a certain amount of time to test them. That was bypassed by an emergency order so that we can get past it. But now everything is speeding up so fast that some people are just like, I don't want to deal with it. Okay, I'll just get it. And they don't have an opportunity to think it out like the Nuremberg Code spells it out.
Let me say something about a vaccine. This has been classified as a gene therapy.
Not a vaccine.
A gene therapy vaccine-ish, right? So from what I understand is the gene therapy checklist wasn't even gone through on that. I mean, they skipped a lot of protocols. It's not a vaccine in the sense that we've grown up with.
Right.
A gene therapy.
Yeah.
So I think that takes a lot more caution than we're.
Well, it's an mRNA.
You're liable to be
what it is.
bald-headed if you take this.
Well, I can't afford to lose any more hair. Okay.
No, but this is one of the. This is very troubling.
All right, now let's go to the airline in particular. There was Southwest Airlines that came out, right?
Yep.
And there was a lot of weather issues that weren't coming up on the Doppler, but that's okay. And then he came out and he said, no, I'm going to be supporting our team, and we're not going to be, I think I heard it correctly, we're not going to be forcing the vaccine?
That's what they said, but I'm not sure that's what they meant. Robert?
So different companies are doing different things. So some require, if you get an exemption, so they're saying, hey, we're not requiring it, but you have to either get it or submit an exemption. Like I need an exemption for my employer.
Right.
My medical decision. So, and then on top of that, I know some employers are increasing the healthcare cost of the employees that did not get a shot. And they're using other punitive measures. So normally insurance, you use like actuary tables where you look at the cost for groups and then they adjust their price, right? Like smoking. Like if you smoke,
you're in this category.
Going self-insured, and say if you smoke, you're paying more for health insurance because they have years of data. I wonder how many years of data they have on the COVID shot to come up with the numbers to increase the price.
They don't. They just plain don't.
Esther, I saw this little kind of PSA, and it was very, very funny. And it said there was a guy there, and he says, a lot of these COVID tests, they give a lot of false positives. He says, but one thing for sure is they say that you lose the sense of smell and the sense of taste. Did you happen to see this one? Mm-hmm. So he had a bottle of wine there, and he said, this is the way that you test for COVID. And he took the wine glass and he poured it in, and he says, you have to swirl it around. How's your sense of smell? Good? Yes? Okay. And then you drink it, and how's your sense of taste? Now, you can't be certain when you only test once. So I'm going to go ahead and test this again. And by the third time, he's like, by now, it really doesn't matter if I have COVID because I'm feeling pretty good. So, but it's so true because they say, the sense of smell, the sense of taste, it's almost that they're asking us to prove that we don't have something. And it's an impossibility to prove. It's like masks save lives. Well, can you show me one person whose life was saved by wearing a mask?
So my son,
his life was saved?
15, he asked me a question. He said, Dad, if the mask saved lives, why did every flu season before this one, we didn't use them? Did that mean they knew and they wanted to hurt you?
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
from
if
the mouths of children.
Yeah.
That's what the biblical expression
Ron, I know we've given the statistic before, but how many people prior to 2020, how many people died annually from the flu?
Okay, normally this is influenza, flu of any variety.
Part of the coronavirus family.
It is part of the coronavirus family. The average has been running about 55,000 deaths per year due to influenza. In 2017, it was a really bad year, and we had almost 86,000 people die from influenza. Interestingly enough, last year, we had 1,600 people die from influenza. Why do you think that is? I mean, is it that everybody's taking a flu shot? No, everything
Something
that
to
comes
think
along,
about. All right,
everything
Robert.
that comes along, they're saying it's COVID. that you're
Robert, we got a
dying
couple
from.
more minutes. You brought some paperwork over here. Can you go through what you got over here?
Sure. So, in case you asked really tough questions.
These weren't really tough?
No, in case you did. But basically, I just have some emails. I have the religious exemption form that they gave you, which is insulting and coercive in and of itself.
Can you show us a little bit of it?
So, for example, I'm going to read a little bit like on the religious exemption. Provide a statement detailing your sincerely held religious belief that is the basis for your objection to the COVID-19 vaccine. It said, please note that political or personal philosophies are not religious beliefs. Now, have you ever had a vaccine as an adult? If yes, please explain how your religious beliefs allow you for the previous vaccine, but not for the COVID-19.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder what law school that
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
Where this
yeah.
guy came
I don't
from.
know.
He still doesn't understand HIPAA laws because the whole thing is null and void. You can't do it.
So they want you,
can't ask
to
these questions,
attach a letter from your religious leader to justify your position. It's like a personal religious belief. Let me go ask my leader what I believe. Like,
Take
come
me
on.
to your leader.
I mean, when Esther and I both read this, I mean, I was hot.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
yeah.
Okay, read us. What else does it say there?
So those, I guess, were the highlights, but they want you to, follow their form, and then they're going to review if it's acceptable, if your religious belief is good enough.
And who is this person or set of people that are going to review
The
this?
man behind the curtain, okay?
Yes.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Well, listen, speaking of the curtain's coming down here, and we're going to have to close off tonight.
Well, Robert and
what
Esther,
I would
what
like,
a pleasure to have you on.
What I would
on the
like
show.
to do, we are doing another show on Wednesday, and if you would leave your phone number, I would like to have a call in. We'll call you and just see how you're doing.
Yeah, don't call us. We'll call you.
Call you. But thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Thank you for running this spooky show, the first part. And we'd like to thank you very, very much.
Give us the
for
website
coming
one more
by.
time real quick.
BoeingPatriots.com.
BoeingPatriots.com. BoeingPatriots.com. BoeingPatriots.com.
And we'd like to thank Doris. She's been doing a great job in the other room, making sure everything's going normal. And we will see you Wednesday night on Fighting Back.